pleasure to be here. So I'm going to talk about a very different topic, right? So we all come across incidents. We all do what we call as incident response. And sometimes we see organizations fail. So among many things that Mandiant does, and I'm not going to talk about Mandiant much, but one of the things that we do is we do a lot of investigations, about 1,000 investigations every year. And many times Mandiant gets called in to do investigations for companies which were previously breached and now they're probably breached again or they want us to review. And of these, I have some 3 stories, right, to tell you. So I'm not going to talk about all the 3 stories, but there are 5 learnings that we have had from these 3 breaches, right, which I want to share with you. So all of these are APJ customers, so a lot of local companies around, right? All of them are large enterprises, more than 20K, so 20K to 100K. These are victims of targeted attacks from advanced attackers, so no small digital frauds. They engaged Mandiant after they were attacked multiple times. So the picture that I'm going to show you is something that we saw after we came in. And when Mandiant investigated it, we found live threat actors in it. So quick, first was a bank, very interesting story. There were a lot of unexplained ATM withdrawals, right? And yes, it was not a fraud, it was a cyber attack. It had been going on for several months, right? Obviously, they did multiple times of investigation. The RCA did not reveal anything, right? In terms of their response, what they did was infrastructure overhaul. So they would set up move the infected machine aside, get a new machine, start the operations, IR ticket closed, move on to the BAU operations, story finished. But this happened multiple times, and the result was that the CISO was losing credibility with every incident. The managing committee, the CEO and his next line, they were frustrated because while the amount of money was not high, they were unable to answer the regulators and the other external parties to why this is happening. And obviously, the board was demanding answers. Next, a big global ITS company, 100,000 systems, attacked 3 times. The first attack was 500 systems ransomware. Second attack, 8,000 systems were ransomware encrypted. And they believed after they remediated for the second time, right, there was a third attack, 3,000 systems. Now, this company engaged OEMs, SIs, MSSP partners, and consulting partners separately for their multiple 2 or 3 times of attacks, right, for IR remediation. And it was a different partner every time. All the 3 times there was investigation and remediation done as per them successfully, but they still got attacked the 3rd time. Obviously, the board had very low confidence in the managing committee. Managing committee started losing customers and revenue because they stopped, the customers started disconnecting, and eventually they lost few of the customers. And auditors, and this is very important, the financial auditors were not ready to sign their statements, right, their financial reporting statements, because if you are attacked 3 times by a ransomware actor, the integrity of data is in question. Then we talk about telcos, clearly identified APT 41 on their own. They found message trap, high noon, rootkits, all the malwares there. It had impacted both IT and telco environments. It was an ongoing investigation, 3 years. When we stepped in, they had been dealing with it for 3 years. Separate investigation was done for IT and OT. Remediation included all our regular steps, rebuilding machines, password reset, hardening, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the board here, they instilled a separate committee, a special committee to oversee this because this was happening for 3 years. Managing committee was spending now more time answering questions to the regulators than focusing on the operations, and security team honestly was tired. Okay, so what went wrong? Now, quick show of hands, is there anything wrong in this? So this is a typical remediation, 3 stages: containment, remediation, and investigation. Anything wrong? Show of hands if you believe there is something wrong in this. Perfect, there is nothing wrong, right? But there is. The remediation closes before the completion of investigation. Now, in a bank, what really happened was they found infected systems. They basically treated it, hardened it, but as soon as the operations are back online, the firewall log analysis, VPN log analysis were work in progress, right? They never saw the end of the tunnel, right? And that is how. In fact, the SOC there started alerting when they were reinfected, but no one was looking for it because the investigation was like less priority. ITES, in fact, they found, their SOC found a second, after the second incident, they did find alerts, but as again, here, nobody was looking for it. They had rebuilt their systems, VPN and firewall log analysis. We tried to ask them for it. There was no conclusive report. Telco, several rounds of discovery and remediations had happened. They had, in fact, they went about creating a matrix and a process. How do you quickly rebuild a server if it is infected? So their focus was on how should I improve my rebuild time rather than focusing on investigation. Now, why does it happen, right? Why do we come into this situation? So the biggest thing that we have seen is haste to close an investigation and IR, right? There's management pressure coming in, and we've seen typically organizations which are supported by MSSPs, right, who have a ticketing system where there is an SLA. The company wants to close the SLA, meet the SLA and close the ticket, right? And as soon as the services are up and running, urgency and seriousness basically reduce. And what is the impact of this, right? If you close the remediation before the investigation is complete, you actually don't know what all is wrong. So there are credentials, malware residue, service accounts which are left there, infected, compromised, which again are used. Again, show of hands. Anything wrong here? So in a remediation, typically you posture, which is you prepare for remediation, eradication, which is removal of threat actor, and then enhancements. Long eradication window. So just imagine that a patient has gone for removing his cancer, tumor from his body. What if the surgery goes on for 2 weeks? He'll probably die of infection. And this is exactly how it operates when we talk about incident responses, right? So for an example here, the ITES company, for the first 2 times, they took almost 3 to 4 weeks for their eradication to get the attacker out. Activities were all sequenced. In the telco, systems were rebuilt fast, right? But hardening of EDR, AV, they took several months, right? And why does this happen? Again, because there's a lack of understanding that eradication needs to happen in a very small window. Ideally, 12 hours, which seems very impossible, but yes, with better posturing, you can. Absence of strong planning, multi-location, multi-geo, obviously the complexities add up. But because of this, if you have long eradication windows, you will have continuous lateral movement and you will have reinfection. The third reason that we have seen is incomplete investigation and quick attribution. Now, we all know doing anything incomplete is not good enough, but let me give you some examples here. So here in the telcos, they invited separate partners to do investigations for IT and telco, okay? And what typically happens is you don't get a bigger picture. And in that whole process, they missed out on very critical telco elements like the AIX, the Unix systems, where they had not done any investigation. In fact, one of their business units, which was retail business, which was not infected, which was running absolutely without any signs, without any alerts in the SOC, right? This unit, they completely kept it out of scope for the investigation. And guess what? This was the one which got the reinfection in. In the ITS company, again, a very interesting story. Investigation done for the first time only on few systems, because the first few systems were infected and then the whole thing got infected. They were done on first few subnets or geos. And then the interesting thing is, in the second investigation, right, they were attacked 3 times. Second time when there was infection for 8,000 systems, they did find a threat actor, an advanced threat actor group. And guess what? They were very happy. They found the TA, they got all his TTPs, scanned the network, cleaned the network, but guess what? There were another 2 threat actors present in the environment. Now, early attribution is good. Attribution means when you identify the name and name of the group, right? Basically the capabilities of the group. Why? Because it helps you investigate faster and remediate faster. You are able to know their TTPs. But doing it too fast is also a problem, because then you miss out on the efficiency of the investigation. Again, here the reason was management pressure, fear of disrupting things. Now this is a very common thing, right? Sometimes we just don't want to investigate areas of our environment because they are fine. Why do I go and probably put an agent or take some data out or tweak it if it's operating fine, right? But this is the reason where it gets missed out, right? And also because of there is a false sense of completion, right? We do a certain things, this business as usual, investigation does reveal something, and with that little bit of thing which gives us few answers, we are satisfied. We are like, okay, I know the reason what has happened, and you know what, my business is back running. Let me just close the investigation. The management is behind me, my neck, right? So that, again, the impact is continual lateral movement, reinfection. Fourth reason is inconsistent and ineffective remediation. Now in telcos, very common example, and this is applicable to all the verticals, they found certain infected SMSs, the SMSC system, the SMS systems. So guess what? They remediated those systems, they hardened it. But what about the other SMSs? They were not infected, right? They did not give any alert. So they were kept just as it. Which essentially means if certain servers in your organizations are impacted and you remediate them, use the remediation action for all the other servers as well. Don't just remediate those which are infected systems, right? In the ITES, in fact, during the third attack, they lost complete control of the Active Directory. Complete control of the IT directory, ADS. We are talking about 100,000 systems with about 110,000 users. It's a big thing. And guess what? A simple reason. The previous IR partner had recommended that you do what is a golden ticket reset, which is KRBT GT reset every 24 hours. Somebody there said, no, you know what, it's very painful. Okay, I'll do it once in 2 weeks. And the threat attacker basically got access to it, and they were able to then come in every time. Another example, it was recommended that the tolerance zero is the highest, protected network segment, be isolated. Well, they did a fantastic job in isolating, identify the most critical elements and isolating it. But guess what? The EDR management solution, right, the system was put in tier 3 and tier 4. It was a central system. And guess what? How were they infected for the third time? Through their EDR. The EDR console was what got compromised, right? An EDR solution on which we all rely on, right? And again, what are the reasons? Typically, it is because, we just don't want to do it across. It is the pain that we want to avoid. Last but not the least, I think the most important thing which companies forget. So just imagine a patient in the hospital, right? He's just gone through an operation, right? Do you just bring him home? No. He goes to what we call as a recovery room, then probably to the ICU, then probably to the ward, and then comes home, right? So here a strong surveillance is important for reinfection, to avoid reinfection. So in the ITES, in the telco, we found that they had actually done a fantastic job the second time. However, there was a user who was on leave for a long time. The person returned. Guess what? Her laptop was not hardened. And that was the beginning point for the third level of infection. Conclusion, comprehensive investigation takes time. There is no shortcut. It can be slow, painful. You need to know when to localize an investigation to few systems or go full on across the enterprise. There could be multiple threat actors in the environment. Remediation must be completed only after you have an investigation report in your hand. Eradication window needs to be absolutely short. Shortest, the best. Actions from remediation needs to be consistently applied not only for the infected site but across the organization. And last, there should be a strong surveillance immediately after the IR. Now please ensure your management is aware about it before an incident kicks in, right? And for everything else, you have Mandiant to call out to. Thank you.